Most actors in the Korean entertainment industry spend their careers trying to avoid controversy. They stick to safe scripts, manage their public image carefully, and stay quiet about social issues. Gong Yoo did the exact opposite. At the height of his fame, he chose to associate himself with one of the most disturbing scandals in South Korean history. He didn't do it for money, and he certainly didn't do it for fame. He did it because he was handed a book during his military service that made him realize his country's legal system was broken. This is the straightforward story of how a romantic comedy star risked everything to expose a horrific truth about the abuse of deaf children and forced a government to rewrite its laws. To understand the weight of this decision, you have to look at where Gong Yoo was in 2007. He had just finished the drama Coffee Prince. He wasn't just popular, he was the industry's Prince Charming. He had built an entire career on being the handsome, safe, romantic lead. In the Korean drama industry, that image is a goldmine. Breaking away from it is dangerous. If an actor tries to go dark or serious too quickly, they can alienate their fan base. But in January 2008, Gong Yoo enlisted for his mandatory military service, which is a standard pause in a Korean male celebrity's career. It's usually a time of waiting. For Gong Yoo, it became a time of radicalization. While serving, a senior officer recommended he read a novel called The Crucible, also known as Dogani, by Gong Yoo. This wasn't fiction. It was a novelization of a real-life court case that had happened in 2005 at a school for hearing-impaired children in Gwangju. The details were shocking. The book outlined how the principal and several teachers at the school had deaf and students. The truly controversial part wasn't just the abuse, but the legal aftermath. The perpetrators were given light sentences, some receiving only probation because of their connections, and the victims' disabilities being used against them in court. Reading this book changed the trajectory of Gong Yoo's career. He didn't come out of the army looking for his next big romance drama. He came out looking for a fight. He contacted the author and expressed his desire to adapt the book into a film. In the Korean film industry, this was considered a terrible business move. The subject matter was grim, socially sensitive, and likely to attract lawsuits. No major studio wanted to touch it. Investors refused to back a project that highlighted such a massive failure of the judicial system. It was career suicide. A flower boy actor getting involved in a story about child and corruption? It didn't make sense to his management or the industry insiders. Gong Yoo, however, was stubborn. He used his own clout to push the project forward. He agreed to take a massive pay cut, essentially working for free to get the movie made. He helped recruit the director and co-star Jung Yoo-mi. Filming the movie, which was released in 2011 as Silenced, was a brutal process. It wasn't just acting, it was reenacting trauma. The actors had to portray the grim reality of the case. Gong Yoo played a teacher who discovers the abuse and tries to fight for the children in a system designed to silence them. The set was heavy, and the emotional toll was visible. They weren't making entertainment, they were making a statement. When Silenced was released in September 2011, the reaction was immediate and explosive. The Korean public was largely unaware of the specific details of the 2005 case. The movie laid it all bare. The controversy wasn't about the film's artistic quality, it was about the reality it exposed. Within days, the movie sparked a national outcry. Millions of people saw the film, and anger spread rapidly across social media and internet forums. Citizens were outraged that the legal system had failed the children so miserably. The movie didn't just entertain, it indicted the entire judicial process. The pressure from the public became so intense that the South Korean government was forced to act. This is the part that rarely happens in any country. A movie literally changed the law. In October 2011, just a month after the film's release, the National Assembly passed a bill that became known as the Dogani Law. This legislation removed the statute of limitations for crimes against children and the disabled under 19 years old. It also increased the maximum penalties for these crimes and allowed the court to retry the real-life offenders who had received lenient sentences. The school where the abuse happened was shut down. This was a direct result of a film that Gong Yoo fought to make. The scandal here is double-layered. First, the actual event, the abuse and the corruption that protected. Second, the industry scandal, the fact that no one wanted to touch this story until an actor with a squeaky clean image put his reputation on the line. Gong Yoo proved that celebrity influence could be used for more than just selling products. However, he didn't turn this into a publicity stunt. After the film's release and the legislative victory, he didn't spend months doing press tours about being a hero. He went quiet, he went back to work. This moment defined his career trajectory. He stopped being just a romantic lead. He transitioned into complex, often darker roles. In 2013, he starred in The Suspect, performing his own stunts. Then came 2016, a massive year for him. He starred in Train to Busan, a zombie blockbuster that broke records, and Goblin, Guardian, the Lonely and Great God, which became a cultural phenomenon. But even in his massive success, The Shadow of Silenced remained his most defining work. He had crossed a line that few actors dare to cross. He proved that the industry, which often prioritizes image and profit, could be a vehicle for social change if the people inside it were brave enough to take a risk. Looking at Gong Yoo today, it's easy to just see a handsome face from a hit K-drama, but his story has a much sharper edge. He represents a rare anomaly in the entertainment world. He took a massive gamble during the peak of his popularity, not to make money but to expose a truth. He faced rejection from investors, the emotional weight of the subject matter, and the risk of destroying his image. He walked away from that experience, having done something few politicians even managed to do. He changed the law. That is the real controversy of his career. Not a scandal he was involved in, but a scandal he dragged into the light when everyone else wanted to keep it hidden.